All right, guys, let's welcome the mighty Alan Robert of Life of Agony over here to the Joshua Toomey interviews, man. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
It's always great to see you, man. Anytime your name pops up in my inbox, I'm like, absolutely, Alan can come on the show, man.
Cool. I dig your bass behind you.
Well, as long as you dig something we got going on over here. Man, you've got all kinds of tons of stuff going on right now, and let's just dive into the Beetlejuice coloring book you got coming out, man. With the this is official, so I'm assuming like the Beetlejuice camp reached out to you and said, "Hey, man, your comic books are awesome. Let's do this."
Yeah, it's actually coming out through Insight Editions, which is the publisher, and working in collaboration with Warner Brothers
Nice.
to get all the approvals done and everything. It's a super fun project, just drawing the classic movie, basically every scene in order. I drew it. So much fun. With drawing my coloring books, The Beauty of Horror, I had a lot of experience going into that book. So, it's a little bit of a different format, but I think fans of Beetlejuice will definitely dig it. And it comes out the same week as the new movie, so
great. That's awesome. So did you go back and rewatch and kind of take notes of like what you wanted to draw, and then and obviously Tim Burton's world's got to be amazing for you to kind of sit down and look at and sit down and draw also.
Yeah, first of all, I had to watch the movie several times just to get into the right mindset for it, and then you start to realize what Michael Keaton doesn't even show up until like an hour into the thing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
such a visual impression on everyone, and obviously he's the main character, but wow, I realized then, like preparing for the book, that you don't even see this guy until like an hour in.
Yeah, then then actually the movie is pretty quick after that. The next thing you know, you're in purgatory or wherever they were down in the waiting room or whatnot.
Some great characters, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All that.
It's kind of like Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. You don't realize that they don't show up in that TV movie for like the first half hour.
Yeah. Well, like last year, like, because I drew it last year, and last year I was pretty busy drawing a bunch of stuff, and now it's all kind of coming out. So like I did the Universal Monsters official coloring book as well for Inside Editions that came out a couple weeks ago. But that too, watching all the black and white, Frankenstein movies and Dracula and all that, just to get in the right headspace to bring those characters to life too.
Yeah, my wife and I were just in Universal Studios, I guess back in February, and they have a really awesome, Universal Monsters show that they have, that the special effects show, which is pretty awesome if you're kind of a nerd. But then while you're waiting in line, they've got all the old stills, all the old costumes. This was a piece of this was, from that movie and stuff like that. So if you're into that type stuff, it's great to go and just kind of see all of it kind of in the flesh.
That is super cool. And also I heard Dark Universe theme park is opening with they're building the castles and you can walk through the towns. That should be dope.
Oh yeah, my wife is a big Harry Potter fan, so she's in it. Anytime they show like a new video or a new something, man, she's like, look at it, it's awesome. She can't wait. So I love going down to Universal. We try to go down once, twice a year.
Yeah, cool. The only time I was there was when we played Close By with Megadeth.
Nice.
And we kind of snuck in the back way because we played the amphitheater there.
Yeah.
And we didn't have passes or anything. We just snuck in the back door and kind of went on all the rides until we got thrown out of there.
It's got to be good times. I was kind of going back and looking at your history and trying to find, because I've interviewed you a ton of times now. We've talked a lot about different stuff and even just talked online or, like comment sections and whatnot. And I kind of wanted to dive into getting taught by Walter. Is it Simonson? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the timeline, and I'm assuming like right around the time, you were studying under him or working with them. That's when he's doing Thor and the Fantastic Four, and just kind of being around that world, man. So what was it kind of like being around him at that time when he's not only working in the comic book industry, but also kind of teaching at the same time?
It was really unique experience because, here we're learning I was in School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. I think it was probably my senior year. I took a cartooning class with Walter teaching, and he would bring in a lot of popular comic book artists to kind of come into the class and speak to us about the real world and what you would need to like bring your portfolio around and stuff. And it was really interesting because like Comic-Con wasn't what it is now. You know, Comic-Con back then was like, you know, the lobby of a small hotel, you know.
Right.
It wasn't this Javits Center, you know, mania. And so like that was really really interesting and really impactful to like learn from the masters that are actually working in comics today. And I remember, you know, Walter was working on the RoboCop book, and so he would bring in pages of the script for the class to do as homework, create comic book pages from the real actual script that didn't come out yet. And then by the end of it, we'd show all our work, and he would show us the actual pages that he came up with based on the script and why he made certain choices. So it was really, really interesting. Great way to learn storytelling. And it also, you know, it kind of really opened my eyes to what was necessary to tell stories in the comic book format, because, you know, a lot of up and coming kids that knew how to draw thought it was all about the big splash page or the big cover art, but it was really about the little sequences, characters interacting to really move the story forward. And that's what I think publishers are really looking for in up and coming talent, you know, someone that can interpret a script and make it interesting for a reader, not just the big battles and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to think back because I mean, obviously that's like the late '80s ish, you know, even probably what into the early '90s. And I mean, you know, I was a kid. I would have been, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11 at that time, prime comic book collecting, getting into comics. I remember reading Wolverine and all that stuff when I was a little kid. But at the same time, it's definitely like you're saying, it's not like it was with the Comic-Cons and how it is now, or with the MCU and, you know, even some of the bigger DC movies over the last, you know, 10, 20 years. It was definitely more, you go to the, you know, you go to the corner store, you buy your comics, and it's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as big, it's not as widespread, it's not as pop culture as it is now. So trying to get into comics back then, or trying to be in the comic book industry, I mean, how cutthroat was it? How, you know, how big of of an industry was it back then?
I think it was a lot of who you know, and I think that even anyone as talented as they were, if they were going to start out at one of the big ones like Marvel or DC, you're going to get coffee for artists for like the first couple of years. Just like if you were trying to break into the recording studio industry and trying to, you know, make your bones like helping out in the studio before you become anyone that's going to actually turn any knobs. You know, it's kind of like you have to pay your dues, and I think that was the vibe back then too. And so when I graduated in '93, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but River Edge Red had was just coming out that October, and I had just graduated School of Visual Arts, and I figured, you know, let me try this music thing before I start taking my portfolio around, and it just turned into this music career. And I didn't really get into drawing comics professionally until like the end of 2009, when I really was just focused on getting an idea out. My first book was Wire Hangers, and I was just committed to like bringing that to life. I was going to draw the whole thing, write the whole thing, color it, and self-publish it. That was my intention. And then before it came out, IDW picked it up, and I've been with them ever since.
So back, you know, '93, River Runs Red's coming out. You know, you're touring Typo Negative, you're touring just all you know, Carcass and all those tours you guys did back then. Were you continuing to like draw and create on the side, or did you kind of just put it all to the side and kind of just mainly focus on music?
I always have been illustrating, whether it's been for Life of Agony merchandise designs or album covers, or for other bands. Yeah, I worked for a bunch of other bands, even most recently Black Sabbath and Pantera. I've done artwork for, Typo Negative as well. Biohazard. In fact, Biohazard, now that they've been back, they brought back one of the old T-shirt designs that I drew in the late '80s, and I see Billy on stage wearing it every night. And I think they donate it to charity or something. They raffle it off or something like that. It's cool to see.
Yeah, speaking of Biohazard, the other thing I found today, I guess, searching around on some things, man, I guess Evan's dad was your principal in high school. Is that right?
He was the head of the Hebrew school.
Okay.
In the neighborhood. And I went to Hebrew school as a young kid. And he would drive me to school. He was, and then I would, in the summertime, the Seinfelds lived directly across the street from me growing up in Canarsie, Brooklyn. And I would be, during the summertime while they had like a camp, like a sleepaway camp. I think Evan worked at that camp as well. I would go across the street, water their plants and stuff like that. And when school was in session, since I'm a couple of years younger than Evan, he would watch me like as a little kid when I was like 9 years old. Like Evan was my babysitter.
That's even better, man.
We watch Cheech and Chong movies, and he turned me out to Kiss. He loved Gene Simmons. He had posters of him all over his wall, and he had like a Tasmanian devil stuffed animal hanging from the ceiling fan with a noose and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, that was like my first experience, hearing like heavy music. It turned me on to like God and Thunder and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Can't go wrong with that, man. Watching some of those old Gene Simmons bass solos where he's just hitting the E string and spitting blood, and honestly, that's probably one of the reasons I played bass. Just watching those even as a kid, even during their non-makeup years, I still gravitated towards the makeup era and just loved the superhero-ness of them and just, I don't know, Ace and I think I wanted to be a musician because of Ace, but yeah, I think Gene kind of brought me to the bass.
Well, we would put on the Kiss makeup. They had those makeup kits back in the old days, and we would scare his mom in the kitchen and stuff like that.
Nice. So when you're seeing, you're going to, the School for the Arts, and then you're seeing Biohazard kind of taking off. Guys from the neighborhood type thing, kind of getting signed to Roadrunner, or probably even Road Racer back then, if timeline's right. Kind of seeing them get signed and start touring and all that stuff, man. Did that kind of push you to really push on music too? Is it kind of seeing those guys do it?
Yeah, well, we grew up in Canarsie, living across the street from each other, and then my family moved to a different part of Brooklyn, and so there was a good, 8-10 years in there that we didn't see each other at all, and I just happened to be getting stitches in the hospital, and Evan was delivering pizzas to the nurses station from Lenny and John's Pizza in Brooklyn. And he recognized my dad. He didn't recognize me. I had long hair, glasses, and he starts talking to my dad, and he's like, Alan? And I'm like, yeah. It gives me a Biohazard pass to come see them at Lamore's as an unsigned. And that was the first concert I ever went to, So it definitely made a big impact. I was playing in local bands already, but seeing them succeed and just kind of like become this kind of local heroes was really a cool experience, for all of us.
Yeah, long hair, glasses, Alan is some of my favorite stuff. And I believe there's some of that in the Sounds of Scars documentary, man. And just some of that old, like that hair is just like, it's pretty wild, man.
Pretty long and out of control.
Too fun, man. I was kind of looking at the School of Visual Arts and looking at your kind of time frame, and the only person I recognized name wise would have been Jared Leto. Did you know him from campus at all?
No, not at all. In fact, as cool as it was to go to art school for college, I commuted every day from Brooklyn, and taking a bus from where I lived, it was kind of really treacherous, grueling commute. And so like, I think it kind of killed my college experience, and I couldn't wait to be done with it. And like getting on the road after dealing with the whole art school thing was such a breath of fresh air, because it was like freedom, you know. It was like, yeah, I didn't really dig it that much. And also it was a different time. So like, it was right before computers really became a tool for the arts. And it was almost like, how are we gonna, you know, do all this comic book art without computers? Like, you do, like, it's so second nature now to use computers to color, you know, line art, or, you know, edit, or whatever you need to do. And back in the day, everything was very tedious and very monotonous, and pen and ink, and there is a beauty to all that, of course. And I did the first couple of books hand drawn and scanned in, and then fix it on the computer or color it on the computer. But I don't know, there's just I have embraced the digital side with creating this stuff, because it's just there's so much freedom involved with it, and there's just no limitations if you're okay with, you know, dealing with pixels over, you know, real strokes. But I mean, you can duplicate that kind of look so easy now on the screen, and for me it's kind of second nature to draw on the screen. And you know, it eliminates so much time scanning in art, fixing it post, you know.
Is there a stigma attached to that? Like, was there, or I'm assuming now it's probably not as bad, but like maybe when it first started, you know, the computers kind of first started coming into comics, and there was like, you know, like the old school, like, I only do, you know, pen and ink, you know, and they get all hardcore about it. And now it's like, it's just second nature. It's kind of like maybe like analog to Pro Tools or something, like back in the day.
It's very similar to analog and digital with music. I think you still have a lot of the old school artists working the fine arts way, the way that they were taught and everything. And you have some of the younger guys that just embrace the technology and use it to their advantage to, you know, make things quicker. It's really about time, you know. That I take a lot of pride in working in the comics industry and never missing a deadline. There's a lot of artists that just can't get it done, and you know, there's different ways of time management and working, and just knowing your limitations and what you're capable of doing with the tools that you have, you know.
Are you the type of person that has to have a deadline?
What's that?
Are you the type of person that has to have a deadline?
Well, there always is one, you know, when you work with these companies.
Yeah.
And whether it's every book, including Beetlejuice, like there's certain like milestone dates that you have to hand in a certain amount of pages to get approved, because so many people are involved with approvals, and sometimes you're working with characters that publishers don't own the likeness rights. And it's very important that, you know, for instance, like the Universal Monsters book I did, the publisher didn't have the likeness rights to Bela Lugosi's face, so they have kind of their generic Dracula face that is in their style guide, and my characters that I drew had to resemble their style guide, not Bela Lugosi. So there's certain little fine lines that you have to adhere to, and there's certain times within the course of a project that you have to get approved, or you have to fix things before you get bogged down to the very end where they have to go to print.
That's great. Like talking about the late likeness rights, and that kind of goes back into the MCU, and even the, you know, the new Deadpool Wolverine movie, and just like how all these different characters over the years. And if you really dive into like learning how, you know, if Fox bought this part of something, but then they would throw in a Spider-Man as just like a like just something on the side, and then later years later it becomes an issue because, oh yeah, by the way, we bought Spider-Man in 1987 or something crazy like that, and how all these like weird tertiary characters, not the Spider-Man's one, but I'm just saying like all the weird fringe characters of these these universes get thrown in these packages of buying certain properties. It's wild how all that works out, and then later on in life when they're trying to do something like, oh, we don't own the likeness rights to Bela Lugosi. You're like, oh crap, it's crazy how that works.
And people, from an outside view, don't know all the legalities of it, and so they may see a page of Dracula and be like, that doesn't look like Bela,
Right.
So and as a fan of all the old horror movies and all that stuff, I didn't learn that until after the fact, after I started drawing it, that it couldn't look like Bela. So yeah, I had to do some changes to make sure that everything was going to get approved.
Crazy. You were talking about the Pantera thing, and got it right here. I went back and looked at it real quick. You did This Love in there, and obviously it's got a little necrophilia to it, and Honey Will Be Together Forever type stuff, man. So when you right, right, when you sit down and listen to the song and kind of get the idea for your section of the book, man, what kind of drew you towards that I guess that storyline?
That's just where my mind went. And I pitched it, and it got approved somehow, which was great because, I thought it'd be a sick and twisted little short story. I stuck in some like Pantera Cemetery Gates imagery in there, and some other homages to some other songs in there. So it was a lot of fun to work on that. I also did, they had a limited edition cover for that book as well. So like I think Revolver put out their own limited edition Pantera graphic novel with my cover, which was super cool too. And that had the band members' likenesses on it.
Yeah, all the alternate covers are in the book also. Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome to check out. But yeah, it was funny flipping to your pages real quick, and I was like, yeah, you've got a style. You can tell it's Alan's artwork.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that is very cool, man.
Yeah.
One more
with the Z2 Comics guys. I've done a couple of projects with them. Some aren't announced yet. But I also did the Typo Negative book and one other thing that's going to be announced later this year.
Yeah, it's crazy how many different things you have going on all at the same time. And I'm assuming kind of the internet helps with all that, because going back to those early days of Life of Agony, it probably would have been nice to kind of have a little secondary income on the side, like while you're on tour, being able to do a comic book, or while you're out, all those long hours in the bus and the vans and all that nonsense, being able to kind of do something on the side now, to where so many years, all these 30 some odd years later, you could do a comic, you could do a Pantera book, you could do the coloring books, you can do Life of Agony shows. It's like, sure. It's like you have a lot of things going on all at once.
Well, the first two comic series that I did, the Wire Hangers series and Crawl to Me, I did while I was on tour. I would set up backstage, and I would draw everything on paper back in those days, early 2010, 2012. And I would draw everything and then scan them in. And then after the show, I would color them on the computer. And I had a pretty good system like that. But like all the beauty of horror books that I've done at home. And then I just kind of focus on the music when I went on tour, like in these like 2016 art. I just found it like I could really, the beauty of horror stuff requires so much focus, and because it's so intricate and detailed, that it was really tough to do it on the road. And so I would just focus on it in between tours, and then go into the tours and focus on the music. And that's the way I've been going the last couple of years.
One other notable alum of the School of Visual Arts, obviously a different time than you, but was Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance. And, that's where he was in school at the time when he saw the World Trade Center go down. And that's when he got the the inspiration or whatnot to like really focus on My Chemical Romance and start a band and do all that stuff. So another School of Visual Arts, nod out here. But he always said,
it was a good school, but I think that I was just not in the right mindset, and like I said, the commute killed me. I probably would have appreciated it more now, and if I took some computer courses and learned digital visual arts.
Well, I will say that you are on the notable alumni on the Wikipedia page.
Oh, really?
So you got that going for you. A couple of other random things. You did some touristy stuff in New York recently. You went to see the Late Show. You got to see Keanu Reeves in the flesh, man. How often do you kind of do the touristy stuff in New York? Things like that, like actually get out and go to Times Square, go do something silly, like things like go see the Late Show.
Kind of never, and that's what made it so much fun, because there's my wife's birthday coming up, and I was on the road, and the way that you get tickets to that show, you don't buy them, which was news to me. I thought you just bought a ticket and showed up for whichever guest that you like, but they don't actually announce the guest until like a week before, and so you just put like a ticket request in like a month or two earlier, and then if you get approved, you're on this kind of like priority waiting list thing, and then you have to check in the day of the show. It's a long process to get in the door, but they want to make sure that every seat is filled, so that's what they do. And we had no idea that Keanu Reeves was even going to be the guest that day, and they sat us like right up front, right behind his co-author of the book that he was promoting, so we were actually on the show. It was
nice.
Yeah, it was actually a good time.
What if he was halfway through and be like, "Oh shit, Alan Robert, Life of Agony, Dog Star, we need to tour together." He's been doing Dog Star a lot here lately, so
Yeah, we kind of followed them a little bit on the tour circuit. I saw that we were playing some of the same venues.
I always want to go to New York for Saturday Night Live. Like, I'm a big SNL fan. I don't subscribe to the SNL died, and this year, that year. Like, every year's funny. Every year's got their their good stuff and their bad stuff. But it's always a good time to catch up on it. But I would love to go see the show, but it's the same thing where you have to put in for a ticket. You don't know if you're going to get in. You don't know who the host is going to be. And so it's kind of hard to plan like a trip to New York just to see SNL if you can't know if you're actually going to get a ticket or not.
Yeah, we just lucked out that it was Keanu Reeves, and it was actually the times that they weren't taping were the best parts of the whole experience, because Colbert would come out right to the front and kind of mess with the audience, and he was just super down to earth, like someone that at that level you'd be surprised, but he was super down to earth. The theater was freezing cold, which was surprising, but we got to watch them like set up some of the skits, and it was a really cool experience. I would say if you're in New York, you should definitely try it.
We'll definitely have to try to do that. You guys have been doing a ton of overseas dates, festival dates. Do you like where Life of Agony is right now? Kind of where you can just go out for a couple of weeks in Europe, play in front of a bunch of, crazed fans, and then kind of come home and be in it, just kind of come home to your house and do your comics, and then go out and do some more stuff and come back to where it's not, touring 10 months out of the year, never seeing your family and all that stuff. Do you like where you're at right now?
Yeah, the balance of it for me is really great. And also, like, I'm actually going to fly to Europe tomorrow for a bunch of more festival dates. And so, like, it's been cool to break it up. We've been up and back to Europe 3 times this summer. And in between that, we've recorded some new material, and we've also had a chance to do a bunch of stuff together outside of, the touring. And it's been super cool, man. Very relaxed, very chill. And it gives us all enough time to, like, be part of our families and and get some work done. And I kind of like spread myself a little too thin this year with all the comic projects, so it gave me a chance to really get a lot of stuff done in between all the touring.
Do you kind of wish that those audiences in America were like that, to where you could go out and play some bigger shows here, and then maybe not have to go to Europe for those shows? It's crazy how I saw you guys here in Louisville, and it was a club that a few hundred people showed up, and then you show you guys in Europe, and then 3,000 people are there. I mean, it's crazy the difference in fandom over there, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of never died down. If anything, it got bigger over there. And we're just so grateful to like get these opportunities to play with some of our heroes every summer, and it's always fun to do the giant festivals, but also like when we play clubs over there, we can do different things, like this past February, we went over there and did a full acoustic tour. I'm not sure that would work here in the States. Maybe it would, maybe in certain markets it might work. But like, what a cool, different type of experience, like, it was kind of like a night with the band. There was no openers. We showed our documentary. Everything was seated, and we came out for Q&A, and then we played a full acoustic set. It was super, super fun and intimate and different, and it really showed a different side of the band and what we're all about. So even, in 2024, we're still surprising ourselves and trying new things.
What was kind of the theme of all the questions at the Q&A? Was there something that people kept asking that you kind of caught you off guard, or was there anything that, or was there just kind of, just the common theme of the questions at the shows?
Every show was different and every vibe was different. So, you could have a question like, what's your favorite roller coaster to ride? One question, and then someone would ask something really deep, and we'd end up going into this whole conversation. And sometimes the Q&As, especially after showing the film, because like the film is available on Amazon here, but it's not available everywhere all over the world. So some people haven't seen it at all. So they watched it together in an audience. We were just talking about watching something together with a like-minded audience. And so here, a packed house is watching the documentary together, and this really emotional journey. And then we come out as the real people that they just watched for an hour and a half. So it was a really touching experience. And so the questions are very related to the film as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing coming away from the film. It's been a minute since I've watched it, but the one thing coming away is, it's a lot of family members and a lot of, everybody kind of talking about the band, and obviously, Joey and Mina being cousins and all that. Like, there's a lot of family. And that's one thing that's nice about the doc, is how family oriented the band is.
Yeah. The director, Lee Brooks, did a fantastic job. And he actually came out to one of the acoustic events.
Oh, nice.
Flew over from England to check it out. And he actually just did the Nickelback documentary as well.
Oh, yeah. I watched that too, yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job.
It's funny, yeah, I'll watch a documentary on any band, and that's even the Nickelback one, you kind of walk away from it going, these guys aren't really that bad.
They got a bad rap.
Yeah. I mean, but they always talk about it though, man. I mean, and you guys probably, I don't know if you guys would have benefited from it at the time or not, but Nickelback coming into Roadrunner, like, they infused a lot of money into Roadrunner, and they helped out bands like Slipknot and all those, all those bands at the time by kind of keeping the label afloat.
Yeah. Hey, Brian Pete was one of the executive producers on our film. So he helped us directly get over the finish line in making our film too.
Awesome, man. Well, Alan, you got anything else coming up, man? I'm trying to see if I got anything else on the list. You guys are playing September 6th on the Liberty Bell. Have you guys done anything like that? I mean, it looks like kind of like a cruise around New York in a boat.
Yeah, we've never done anything like that before. But it should be really fun. And I'm actually playing twice. And Spoiler NYC is opening the show.
Nice.
And we just rehearsed last night. And yeah, it's gonna be a great time, you know. And it's like some of my heroes, like the Sex Pistols, played on a boat back in the day, and so this is our chance to turn it up. And it should be a nice thing around New York City, around the New York Harbor.
You had mentioned earlier that you guys had recorded some music. Are we talking like a new album? Do we have any plans? Are we just demoing? What are we doing?
You will hear all about it probably in about a month. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon, but yeah, something really exciting that we've been working on. We actually recorded at Sears Studio in New York City, where David Bowie recorded at, John Lennon. When you walk into this place and you could just feel the vibe of, you know, the legends, with all the antique analog gear and the old Neve console, and it's just like mind blowing to be in that space.
Nice. Let's end it on one more comic book question. I want to see if you can answer something for me that I've always been curious about. Because you go back and you know, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all those guys worked for Marvel, but so like, you know, all the artists at the time worked for a company, but over time, you know, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and all those guys got to kind of keep the likeness rights for their property, their intellectual properties. How does that work? Because it seems like to me that if the company's paying you to create something and you create it for them, then it would be theirs and not yours. So do you know how that works?
Well, it's pretty much what you said, is the company owns everything, and the artists know going in that they won't. And that's why, you know, other comic book companies started kind of from the artists that worked at those major companies, like Image Comics started because those artists wanted to own their own characters, you know. And it really was the origins of creator-owned comics, and that's something that I'm really proud that I'm a part of. With all the stuff that I've done, is creator-owned ideas and characters, and you know, everything outside of the licensed properties that I work on, like Beetlejuice or Universal Monsters, I own, and I could do whatever I want, whether it's make a toy with my friends at NECA Toys based on my Guliana character, or anything that I want, merchandise with Blackcraft. You know, I'm able to do these partnerships with these giant companies because I have, you know, the say. I don't have to ask somebody. And there's a lot of cool freedom in that. And, you know, I mean, I think I've never worked for Marvel or DC, so I couldn't tell you what it's like to be there. But yeah, you're part of the machine, you know, that keeps the legacy going, you know. And there's a certain beauty to that too, because these are, you know, unbelievably legendary characters, and to be part of telling those stories has got to be an amazing experience from a fan's perspective. But I really dig the creator-owned stuff because you could really dive deep into these worlds and expand them, as far as, you know, the publisher lets you go. As long as you have, you know, a good relationship with the publisher, I think, you know, it's really limitless.
Yeah, I was looking at the Walter Simonson stuff, and I guess in the Thor run that he did, he turned Thor into a frog for like 3 issues. And I'm like, that's gonna be that's a pretty ballsy move to turn Thor into like a frog for, you know, multiple issues of a comic book.
Well, you know, I grew up on the Punisher and stuff like that in the 80s, and I would be like the little kid taking my stack of comics to get Mike Zeck, the artist, to sign all of them and paying him, you know, $50 for a sketch, and I was that kid. So I have a lot of respect for the artists that that really put their heart and soul into developing those characters for Marvel and DC, and they really brought them to a whole nother level. I mean, you look at how popular the Punisher is now, versus when it first came out. You know, at least the Punisher limited series was like in the 80s, and he was like this underground vigilante character, and now he's right up there, you know, with everybody else. So it's super cool.
No, yeah, it's definitely awesome, man. I can't wait for you know, the big studios to come for some of your stuff, man. And you can
some of the things are in development.
nice.
Yeah,
It's awesome, man.
a lot of fun.
Well, Alan, man, I appreciate you taking the time today, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You know, and it's always like, it's gonna sound silly, but anytime you like any of my stuff, like I'm just like that 15-year-old kid again, and like that's at a Life of Agony show. You know, that's, you know, you were one of my, you know, base heroes. You were one of my, you know, dudes growing up, and so anytime you like anything or comment on anything, I'm like, that's fucking Alan Robert. You know, it's still awesome, man.
It's great to see you doing different things too. And you know, I remember our first conversations a bunch of years ago. You know, and you've come such a long way. So congrats on everything.
Appreciate you, man. Well, thanks for taking the time here.